What now, and is there more, my loves? Well, where can we go from here? This is where we're diving into today on the Wake and Being Conversations to Create Change. This Marcion Medicine series is, of course, diving into the expansion of our consciousness and what's actually available and working with sacred sacraments. And the beloved that I have joining me, Megan Camille, she's a highly successful intuitive business consultant for entrepreneurs and business owners and CEOs, helping them expand and scale their businesses to 6 and 7 figures while also getting to enjoy the freedom of what entrepreneurship is about, what we came into it in the first place. And she's been psychic her whole life, runs a mystery school, was highly like rocking the game. So if you feel like you're a leader or someone who's rocking the game, highly successful, and it's like, well, where do I expand from here? Like what's actually available where I'm, not the teacher or the coach or the leader, and is new awareness for me to expand even my life experience. Well, Megan shares such a great reflection of coming from that place and then what became available and aware, and diving into, again, the beautiful results that we can create, how she 400 times her income in diving into the awakening and awareness from sacred sacraments, but also coming to peace and contentment, releasing control, coming to absolute trust of herself, liberation. A lot of these things that we're not even aware are operating when we've dove into our inner playground so much or done a lot of things. And so we really have an amazing jam out conversation in all of these aspects and finding these other layers that are here to be witnessed and loved and healed and expanded upon, to have an even higher evolved experience of life than what we think is like the successful play, or is the high level that we're all striving to get to. And how I like to say that's really just home base foundation. Like that's not even starting from the foundation of where your self-realization, where your soul really desires to go. So join us for this conversation. So happy you're here. And if you have not yet, really recommend that you go over to marcylock.com and you can opt in to get the Living in 100% Joy Now training, which was actually a channel transmission from Sacred Sacraments, and is such a beautiful gift of awareness of how to implement living from this higher experience of the joy that's available in all of life, and how to transmute and alchemize everything. You can also check out while you're there if there's any area of resistance in your life. If it's money, check out Money Medicine. If it's relationships, check out Awaken Relationships. If it's diving into knowing how to move through anything in resistance, then I highly recommend going through Unconscious Commitments and the Freedom Activators. My book as well that goes along with the Freedom Activators is diving into all those aspects. And if you've been on the journey and you're ready for the next level of expansion and awareness, then I highly recommend checking out Align to Manifest, which is the life mastery program. And if you're curious about or ready for these sacred sacraments and these teachers to really quantum leap your life, then check out the retreats. And we have obviously many trained facilitators by me as well, the Sacred 11 facilitators that are also offering and holding retreats. So there's plenty of opportunity. If you can't get into one with me, there's opportunity to be able to come with one of our beloveds that works with these as well. So there's so much support here, my loves, and so grateful just to be on the journey with you and to be in a space of experiencing a greater evolution together. So thank you for joining us, and I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, beloveds. So good to be with you all. As you heard from the intro, I am here with the glorious Megan Camille, who is, oh my gosh, such a high-level light leader, an entrepreneur that leads, well, you really lead and guide entrepreneurs and CEOs and business owners in creating 6, 7-figure businesses. You've been psychic your whole life. You have like an extensive amount of experience in leadership. And you also run the Sophia Mystery School with your mom. And beloved, I'm so excited for this conversation because I feel like you can bring connect some gaps into a lot of, even as a high level leader, what you can be experiencing in the human experience that not even aware of how much more expansive or free or liberated or how much you can receive can really happen. And this is obviously a Marcion Medicine series. So we're sharing the experiences of working with sacred sacraments and these deep immersions in ceremony with these sacred teachers to be able to awaken our consciousness and have a completely different experience. So there's so much to jam out here about. I'm just super grateful that you're here. So thank you for being here.
I'm so excited.
Well, my love, let's start with how this even came into your field, because for a lot of people they're like, how do you know, where to go and if it's right and etc. Like how did working with sacred sacraments, or even working with me obviously in choosing to go do sacred sacraments, how did that even come into your field?
Yeah, well, I don't have a background of any sort of religion or anything like that. So I grew up totally spiritual.
Mhm.
I was raised in spirituality and I had been psychic my whole life. And so I really felt like I was so tapped in and tuned in. And
Mhm.
probably to mainstream, I really truly was, right? I had been giving readings professionally from the time that I was a young teenager, like 14. And by the time I came around to you, I was 33 at the time. And I had just felt like I was plateauing, right? It was like, oh, I get this stuff. Not that I felt like I knew it all. I knew I didn't know it all. And yet
Mhm.
I was like, where else can I expand? Right. I was having amazing visions. I had great messages. I talked to source consciousness. I talked to deities. And right, it wasn't
Yeah.
um, I wasn't just beginning. I was really already on the path and
Yep.
supporting people in the spiritual community. But I was like, where can I go and be a newbie? Where can I go and be the one that is soaking in more information instead of
Mhm.
the leader or the teacher? And
Yeah.
so my mom, Michelle Lee, she's the co-founder of Sophia Mystery School, was coaching with you one on one, and she was talking about going to Colombia with you for ayahuasca, and
Mhm.
I thought that's really cool. I was currently at the time I was pregnant with twins, or actually they were newborns. But when
Yep.
she was going, I was still pregnant. When she said, "Oh, I'm going to go," I'm like, "Oh, that's amazing! Here I am, stuck being so pregnant, so far away of anything like that." And then months after they were born, they were still newborn, she went.
Yeah.
And I wasn't the first thing that called to me. I remember reading about it for, maybe a year or so before and just thinking, that's so far away. Like, I don't think you can do it anywhere near where I am. I wouldn't know where to start. And also I heard that you throw up. So that was
I actually remember your mom saying, like, with her going, was like, how, because you are psychic, and how she's like, yeah, you could tap into where she's at and what she's doing. And one of the things she said was how you couldn't see her where we were, because again, we had encoded a closed bubble of protection. And I remember her saying, like, yeah, Megan was like, that's cool. Why don't you bring back all the transmissions? Because I'm not doing that. It's like,
yeah,
you go
it
do
was
that, mom.
Yeah, it was wild because I'm really great at remote viewing, or like kind of going into something else or someone else or a different space. And it
Mhm.
was not possible, right? Like I couldn't tap into her, I couldn't feel her, I couldn't see her. It was so wild. So I was excited to hear what she said, and was pretty convinced that that really wasn't the direction for me. But then you had a J2R retreat,
Mhm.
and that particular sacred sacrament was really calling to me. It felt impossible because I had newborn twins and
Yeah.
wasn't sure how I was going to be able to swing, even though they would be like 6 months. They would have been 6 months by the time I went. Like, how do I leave? I've got 5 kids total, two newborns. How do
Yeah.
I leave to go and do something like that?
Yeah.
Um, but I made it happen, and J2R is where I connected with you, and that was
Yeah.
my first journey.
Yeah, where we worked with, obviously it was your first experience with rapé, where I served you rapé for cleansing,
Yep.
clearing, so it's a sacred tobacco. And then we worked with 5-MeO or Bufu and psilocybin. And I believe in your first J to R, we also did a smidgen of working with ketamine to reprogram the brain. So
Yeah.
that was your first experience with sacred sacraments and psychedelics.
Mhm. Yes, it was. It was so good. Very first experience. Like in my earlier 20s, I had done some partying and none of it was ever like psychedelic at all. So it was a brand new experience. People I've talked to before is like, oh yeah, I used to do that when I was a kid. I'm like, I don't think you did it
Yeah.
like
Not quite the same as when you go in intentionally in sacred ceremonial experience for expansion, but yeah, yeah, okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So it was brand new
yeah.
for me.
Yeah. What would you say in that, in those first experiences was what you, yeah, what you got from it, what you experienced, what came out of it for you?
Yeah, there's literally not enough time in the day to say
Yeah.
all of what I got through, but some of the most important things that are still with me today that come up every single day is that everything belongs.
Mhm.
That light and dark is no different from each other, that they're one and the same. So
Mhm.
paradox, what that really introduced me to paradox, what it meant to live beyond duality.
Yep.
Um, that was a huge thing. That that shadow work wasn't a phase. It wasn't so,
Uh-huh.
can I take care of this and be only over here?
Yeah.
Those are the most profound. And then something over time that I've really noticed is a baseline, like an elevated baseline
Mhm.
uh, of like of content, of
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
I was walking the other day and there was nothing to be excited about, if that makes sense. Like before I
Mhm.
used to be like, oh, well, I have this to look forward to, so I can be excited now. There was
Yeah.
no outside force that was adding to my experience. I just was elated. And I have that experience often now of like, oh my God, I feel elated. I think this is like euphoria.
Mhm.
Nothing I'd ever experienced, like heart open.
Mhm.
I tear up easily with just love and joy. So
Mhm.
that felt like that it started there.
Yeah.
And the journey I've done since then tends to just bring out another level.
Yeah. Oh, this is such a beautiful way that you express that. So it's definitely how I feel after just coming out of my last darkness immersion, is just this whole other higher level of attunement where it's like, why, like when you've cleansed and cleared so much out of your system that it's like, why, like you just can't even buy into the old stories, right? And so you're not looking for something outside to make the inside feel okay. You're totally at peace being here fully with yourself in the inside and all of life. And it's just like, it's just this, you experience life as the beauty, the magic, the miracles, the abundance, everything that is here and available. And so like, how can I buy into a story that that something's missing, or this isn't okay? It's just, it's like so fucking beautiful and juicy. And one of the things, because I mean, what I love about you, my love, is your willingness. You can tell you're a high level leader, and I love you bringing perspective from coming from already a high level place, because you had said even before we started recording how in some of our last integration conversations from the last, so you've been to 2 Journey to Remembrances and you went to Columbia, and you obviously have gone through Awakened Embodied Healer training for being a facilitator, all these things. So you've done the depths of these. And in our last integration conversation, you were talking about like finding this place of separation, or and how to understand things, and we guided you to one of my modules in Align to Manifest, which was God consciousness. And you were saying, oh, like it's so dropped in at this higher level of there's not that many people that will talk about this, and there's not a lot of people that have gone this journey or experiences to have this context. And what it brought up for me was, it's just like witnessing you, where you're already psychic, you've done years and a journey of evolution in spirituality, and you were running a mystery school and teaching people at these higher levels and layers, and it's like the gifts you are already aware of, and to witness through your journeys coming into a place of even safety to expand into energy and beyond the body and control or fear and all these things, and to witness like this evolution you're experiencing that's beyond like the human awareness. I just, my whole system goes like and that those gifts that you're transmitting to other people. And so I remember and going back, like what I really appreciate about witnessing you as a leader, because leaders go first by leading themselves. So you already like, hey, I've done all this, and what else? Like what else is available? Like there, where there's beyond, this awareness that I have. And so you did the first Journey to Remembrance, and I think it was like, maybe a day later, maybe 2 days later, it was really soon after, we get a message from you, my assistant, that's like, hey, can I come to the next one?
Yeah.
Like we had another one a month later that was happening, and we're usually booked out, but you were like, can I get in? Can I participate? I got so much. I want to continue to go into this journey. And so you then came to the next journey to remembrance a month later. And then it was just a few months later, you came to Colombia, which was then worked with ayahuasca, right? Again, it was like open you to, okay, instead of like, that's not something I could do. And before that, just to give some context of like your family, because I know this is maybe a piece that you want to dive into, is like how it shifted your family experience. Was your husband, after your second journey to remembrance, you said you got home and literally he shared with you that he'd just been diagnosed with cancer and in past experience, right? And so you turn around and message us, can he get into Colombia, before even asking him? And that was a whole beautiful thing where he was like, no. And then he's like, wait, why wouldn't I? Then your husband got to come to Colombia, healed his cancer, literally had a test results right after he came back and it was gone. And then he also got into Awaken Embodied Healer. So your mom, yourself, and your husband have all gone through Awaken Embodied Healer, are all now trained facilitators, running retreats, working with this, and just the massive expansion for your family. But I remember you saying after your first one, how like you came back and experienced your kids differently and
Yeah.
was experiencing just like you're saying, like life differently. Maybe you can bring in some perspective of that, of what's available in just like the human world for people in that way.
Yeah, it was really important for me to be able to weave this into my day-to-day life, right? Because it was a big deal for me to leave those chunks of time from my kids. I really wanted it to matter, right? Like I really wanted to make sure I was seizing these opportunities. And in my very first J2R, and then also in the Columbia retreat, there was a lot of focus on my family life, on my kids, and then later my grandparents. And so what really landed home was this knowing that I was not supposed, I wasn't here to control my kids. Right? That now, what's really interesting about going so deep with medicine is some of these ahas that I've had about parenthood or being in love and lovership with all of life before years before I'd done any interplay may have looked like spiritual bypass. And now it looked like full circle integration, right?
Yes.
I wasn't like, oh, it's not up to me to control my kids because I don't want the responsibility and it's fucking scary, right? I had fully stepped into responsibility of motherhood, and I was getting upgraded codes on motherhood, which was like, it doesn't actually serve them to control them. It doesn't serve them to think that they need me in order to be happy, right? And seeing this play of like, oh, I can't go and fully be me because then I won't be a responsible mom, actually also wasn't serving them. Yeah.
That was big for you in the first Jada. I remember because you had some big experiences of fear and control. And I remember as we were moving through that and processing through that, it was like the thoughts, the human thoughts that were coming up to cleanse that, which was like, I'm not at home with my kids. What if something's happening? What if what if I'm a bad mom? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, and they're all like evolving those perceptions and letting that dissolve through, that you came back and then integrated that, where it's like questioning these things and seeing like, wow, my kids get to have an example of sovereignty and of honoring themselves and choosing their path. And I'm here just to be a growth partner, not the old illusion of a parent, which is, I have to force, control, tell them what to do. They're my responsibility, etc. It's actually like they're a divine fucking being that is here as your growth partner and reflection to grow together, and not to, just releasing all the low vibrational shit. And I remember that being a really big experience for you of, I feel like that was like the first layer of fear and control. That was obviously the first thing that wanted to be healed and loved. And then getting to witness you continually through was like, again, the safety, the control, that was big for you, even though, and maybe that's something you can speak to in how that connects. It's like, it's like you're speaking to spiritual bypass, right? In that I like to say, and your mom and I have talked about this, we've jammed out about this, because I think in one of our conversations or maybe our interview, this came up where it's like, I feel like a lot of people are like, okay, I'll stay in the program, but I'll play the game really well. So I'll, like you said, do a little shadow work. Okay. And then I'm separate from it. Or, okay, I'm going to create my reality. Okay. I got to have enough money to feel safe and comfortable. And this and this, and I'm going to like, in a way, surface self-empowerment, play the game and try to control and play the game really well, where it looks like I'm successful playing the game. Yet what I'm like what I geek out on and what I love witnessing and seeing us all evolve to is let's fucking dissolve the program and the game altogether. So it's like you were going through these layers of, okay, this is what motherhood looks like and what parenting looks like. And then there was these other layers of safety and you being safe and control, like releasing control was a big one. Right. And then I just remember in the jungle going into like, well, like, no, I don't want to expand into leaving my body. There was fear of like, because I want to control, I'm here in my body. And that's been big for you to allow yourself to like, oh, I can actually connect to more of my multidimensionality, more of, and how the senses then become alive and awaken even into more awareness. So maybe you can share a bit about that, because I feel like that's a program running that most people aren't even aware is running.
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, that safety and motherhood with my kids was really connected. And it actually brings to mind this particular line in a movie called Interstellar. And they talk about, time travel and dimensions and that sort of thing, that the body will, as you're dying, will take you through memories, one of them being your kids. So that is the most, the highest level of survival mechanism is when you think you're dying, what you think of, what you remember is your kids. So now in hindsight, I can look back to these and see the egos, the ego deaths or the dissolving, which I'm so grateful for, so happy for. That was what was being triggered, was like anything for my ego to grasp onto and not go into the abyss, right? Not go into the infinity, instead to stay like, hey, you have kids, you have to stay here. That ego aspect, my personality was really fighting to not let go, right? To not dissolve even for a moment. Where she wasn't actually dying, or I mean, maybe parts of her were, but she was going to come back online and she wasn't up for even, a 5-MeO moment. So that safety was so strong in the beginning. And each journey I've been able to, with lots of midwifery from you for those first few journeys, was like, okay, I can dissolve into this moment and be safe, right? Like I can see an aspect of self transmuting, changing, dissolving, whatever word we want to use for it, and know that I'm safe. And so bringing that into my life has looked like every day I'm willing to let whatever happens, right? Like if my life, the way it looks now, is to burn to the ground, I can be in that space and not be afraid of it. So being able to accept whatever is makes every moment like more enjoyable. I'm no longer afraid of losing what I have, because it's not what I have that's creating that like that elated feeling, that feeling of safety. And that's kind of what that euphoria and elation is. It's almost like a lack of feeling unsafe.
Yeah. And you describe it so well, because it's like most people are striving, holding on to control the program, the pattern, the behaviors, the ideas, holding on to the stories, because they think that's what allows their safety, right? And that's always going to keep you in a fight and a struggle. And so it's like when I actually can be with all things and all of life and all happening, and there's nothing to fear. There's nothing, as we know, whatever you're trying to control is controlling you. And so when you can, I mean, the liberation, let's just tune into that for a moment, people. The liberation, the fucking liberation that's available when I can be in any experience anywhere in the world with anything in life and be fucking free And there's no fear, there's no control, there's no creating suffering or stores. It is like to like allow life to be experiencing and coming through the experience, which on a deeper level of consciousness, I just want to go here for a minute, in that what's actually happening also with life doing that is that it's in India and in some of the ascended masters that I've worked with, they speak to this as like the sanskaras, the wounded aspects, the traumas, the stuck energy, anything in our system that is life is perfectly reflecting obviously what's inside, right? So it has to come up so that we can witness it and let it move through and not grasp. We respond consciously, we respond differently than react unconsciously into like, oh no, I gotta grasp this. Like, oh, interesting, I'm witnessing all that. So that's what you're doing. You're literally like witnessing life and like, oh, like I no longer feel the desire or the I don't have to respond or react that way. I actually can witness this. And so that's another layer and aspect of how alchemy is happening. We can alchemize our thoughts and our perceptions and through feeling our emotions, etc. And that's one way to let the energy move through, which we do a lot of training on, right? In working with medicine, and the energy is moving the stuff through our system. And the other aspect is I can witness it, and I'm consciousness, just witnessing consciousness happening and let it move through. And so there's just a complete liberation, like freedom with all of life, that nothing is like, or I'll put it the other way, everything is perfect, whole, complete. Everything is here. Everything is available. There's only more to receive when you're open. It's like if we're a horse, that they put those blinders on so they just see the path in front of them. And we're like, okay, it has to be this way. And so we're blocking all the other ways for us to receive the infinite abundance and love and joy and possibilities, because we're like, no, life has to look this way, like this is the way it's going to be. I want to manifest okay, I have to do this program, I have to do this, blah, 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 blah. And you're an expert at that, in that you work with business owners and entrepreneurs and CEOs in opening their field of not only capacity but the flow of energy and what's really intuitively in alignment for them. But when we're like, oh, I'm only doing this based off the program, we don't know all that's available. And the sacred sacraments in this deep inner play allows us to, I would say, witness those things that our human necessarily wasn't willing to witness. Because as you describe it, it's like this program was operating. I'm a mom, I got to stay here. And I've seen that. I got to witness the beautiful evolutions and waves of this that you experienced. Whereas even like, I remember the first 5-MeO journey and you're like, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? I'm like, I'm right here. I'm holding your hand. Like, yep, you're safe. All good. Like, and just guiding you to like relax and surrender and allow that energy to move through. And then to see it come up with your kids and your family. And like, well, wait, when you had higher evolutions of consciousness, you're like, well, wait, what if I can I really experience this much bliss? If I release into all this bliss, then wait, is that even responsible? I need to be here in my body, and I need to be, it's like, it was trying to like, wait, should and it was trying to alchemize and click in that, oh, I can experience all of it and still be here. I am human and I'm multidimensional. And in some way, I love that you bring this up to reflect that this is a common fear for so many people, in that they're afraid they're going to leave their body and not come back. And this is why we do the deep preparation and talk about these things. Like, yes, anxiety is going to come up, fear is going to come, because these things want to move through, but we can know how to work with them and move them with ease and grace instead of getting stuck in them or having trauma. And as I explained it to you, I remember as we were driving down to the jungle and you're like, wait, and I was like, well, the light beings were saying, if you think about it as this is your chance and your opportunity to feel and experience yourself from higher states of awareness and consciousness. If you try to control and like, no, I want to stay here in my body, I want to stay here in my body. It's like, the waves are going to happen. You will always come back. Never seen someone not come back. Now, I've heard plenty of stories of people have broken psyches and fractalized systems because they didn't have the right preparation, know how to work with it, support, etc., that they have these experiences that felt like it jacked them over. That's what we want to bring awareness to people of, like, knowing how to work with and be with this but it was like, so you could, when you experience yourself from these higher states of awareness, that's what then you have as an imprinting and a knowing to come back to. and integrate into your human experience. But if you hold back, you never experience that to have a higher imprinting or awareness. And so that is a common thing, I think, for so many people is like, but wait, no. I feel I get to be here in my body. I'm safe in my body. I don't want to have anything that feels out of control, like releasing to your soul and the sacred sacraments, taking you to a higher evolution or way, because we create fear around what we don't know. But it's so crazy because it's like Christmas, it's like, oh, like, oh, that we get to open and awaken and be aware of, like, this for our greatest, highest good. And that's the funny joke we have with sacred sacraments, right? In our retreats is we're always like, it's the funniest thing is that everyone creates all this fear and these ideas and stories, which we get to walk through and dissolve so they can feel safe and go into a clean energy. And after we're all like, what the fuck? I'm like, I know, guys, I know, I'm telling you that.
Yeah, and the amount of self-trust afterwards is so profound, right? Oh, I can walk myself through that. Now, full disclosure, it took sometimes some serious coaching through what I was moving through from you before I could do it on my own. And even that last ceremony in Colombia, I questioned, like, could I do it? And it was the most found thing, because what I remember questioning was myself, which all of the hardest points of my life, I was questioning myself. And so in this 4 or 5 hour journey, I felt like I was living lifetimes of having not trusted me. Like, I think of the births of my children. It was like, oh my God, I don't trust me and my body to get me through this, or supporting my kids when I became a single mom. It was like, wait, if we leave it up to me, this isn't going to be good. Right. And now a lot of that I had transmuted, but there was so much that was left that I didn't know was actually running and getting all over my life, where consciously I thought it wasn't, because I was highly functioning in my business, in my life. I am and was even then a happy person. So to go
you're playing the game really well.
really the game well, right? I'm like, well, I think I made it, but is there more? And there was so much more, so much more.
Yeah. And I got to witness you. You were fully fucking doing it. I just remember being like, witnessing you moving the energy, going through the waves of it, and was like, she's fucking doing it. And that's the thing. Yes, I'm grateful and I'm there for the support of working through those things that eventually you're like, wait, I fucking got this. And I love the way that you express it, because as I tune into my own experience, I'm like, oh yeah, each thing has given me more capacity, more trust with life, more trust with myself, more trust with everything. It's like I trust the divine process and order of life. I trust the flow of life. I trust my intuition. I was opposite of that when I started the journey as well. It was like I was scared of everything and I was unsure of everything, and it was, I didn't trust myself. So I love witnessing that reflection of how you put it, where it's like when you go through again, it's experiential training of like, I can be with energy. And we talk about that a lot, where it's like intensity doesn't have to mean hard. Just intensity means I can be with this amount of energy. I can be with this amount of emotion. I can be with these thoughts. And how can you be that for your children, for your spouse, for your clients, for anyone else, if you haven't done it for yourself? You can't. That's why people run into their shit when someone has an emotion and they got to run the other way, or has thoughts or beliefs, and they're like, oh, like surface self-empowerment, spirituality, spiritually bypassing. Oh, someone's talking money shit, I'm going to run over here because I don't want that to affect me. Instead of owning, like, I'm a sovereign being and I can be with all this emotion and I can be here in love and compassion. And there's just such a greater ability to experience life in ease and flow and grace. And I really feel like that's what you're transmitting, is like the level of, you were already at this high attunement from the awareness you had. And not even knowing there was so much more. And I'm so grateful that your mom started the pathway and you followed that call, even where you're just like, yeah, mom, go do that. And then you're like, wait a minute, there's more for me here. And how that's expanded. How is that how has that affected your business now and your experience now and like coaching people and leading and guiding?
Yeah, well, massively. And I know that it's just begun. I know that so much it's always, every single journey is always still like sinking in, right? Like I'm still being delivered codes from each one. And so the way it's shown up in my business is rapid transformation, right? I mean, skyrocketing what I made. Once I started journeying that particular year, I went up by 400%. It
Wow.
was the biggest ever. And so I know that if I have that capacity this time, I can do it next year also, right? It's that opening, like, what can I hold? That is what I'm is one of the lessons I've learned in medicine is widening my capacity, right? And not just my capacity for only what was good, because I had reached what I could hold if I only looked at that. If I only saw like affirmations, gratitude journal, which I do every single day. And it was the full self-actualization that said, oh, I can be with all things, even if this doesn't go right. And because I was open to that, it just is going so smoothly. That's definitely the first piece. The second piece is it's very rare. I want to say nothing, but probably that would be too blanket. It's very rare. I hit up against something and I go, ooh, maybe I shouldn't do this. I can't do this. I don't trust myself. It's a rarity that happens now. Instead, I go, this reminds me of that one journey where I was in the fire and I said, if it's left up to me, it's not going to happen. And I brought myself through it. And so I can, right? That was the experiential training for the moment in my business when I was like, I think I'm at my limit. I don't know where else I can go. I don't know how more innovative I can become. I don't know how I can actually receive more. And it was, oh yeah, I've done this before. It can be left up to me. I am my own greatest teacher. So
Yes.
for sure it has been and the enjoyment of my work. So it's not like it wasn't just monetary. The monetary was the bonus.
Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking that it would be monetary actually, because every single journey I would the first two, so all like those very first 8 or 9 journeys, I went in saying, I am willing to give up any and all identity that I currently have. Right. So I wasn't necessarily going into like, how can I do my business better? My biggest fear was, what if I am not meant to do it and that's what I'm doing? So yeah, what I came out with is the elevatedness, right? In my business, I'm so elevated. Working with clients, I feel happy so often.
Yeah. And it's beautiful that we have the connection, that you're bringing the connection point to so many people will like only want to upgrade the game or lean into stuff based on if I get this, like, oh, okay, I want to make more money, etc. And what's interesting and funny is I've found with so many, I mean, clients and people that I work with as well, it's always like everything going through the healing, of course, like, of course, more abundance is going to come in. Of course, all these things are going to happen, but it's not from, okay, I need to focus on healing my money shit. Your money shit is showing up because of what's happening on inside. That could be with relationships, with, again, trusting yourself, with your expression, with, all these aspects of healing. Again, letting go of control allowed you to massively expand. As I remember some of those conversations where you're just like, but if I just focus on, if I stay here, I know I've got this. And there was that, but can I do more? And I don't trust myself to do more. And then healing and alchemizing that to where it's like, that's not what we're here for. You're here for your highest elevation of self-realization and experience of life. And as you know, I like to say lovership with all of life and our greatest life adventure. And from that high level of vibration and frequency where you are fulfilled, you are soul fulfilled. I'm whole, I'm complete, I'm fulfilled. There's nothing missing. Even when you're walking down the street, like you said, and you're just like elated, there's nothing missing. I don't have to like, oh, if I, okay, and I get this project done and then launch this thing and then do that, or, oh, and then the Christmas family party or this or that. And I'm not outside looking for something to try to make me feel better. I'm fulfilled and whole and complete. From that vibration, there is everything is it's the alignment match of manifesting whatever you desire, because it's coming from the vibration of it's already here, it's already whole. I'm not coming from a place of surface self-empowerment, which is I don't have it, so I'm going to say the affirmation and try to focus on like when I have that, and I have that, I am that, but I don't believe it, and it's outside of me and it's not here and now, and I'm not from that vibration. It's still a vibration of lack. And
Mhm.
so there's this this, I love that you're bringing the connection to it's as we heal each aspect. Of course, everything for me, it's like everything just gets easier. Life just gets easier. There's more available. Of course, I can receive even more abundance and more joy and more love and more pleasure. And of living from that level of attunement. Of course, I'm here to be supported by all of life, because there's
Yeah.
infinite abundance and supply with all of life.
Right. And it's before I started journeying, it was all about like this money manifestation, which was kind of that pseudo spirituality, right? It was still a little bit of surface,
Yeah.
only the positive stuff, and only focus on money manifestation. And now the way I say it is that would be like working out and only focusing on my right bicep or something. Like
Yeah.
such a small
You got
part.
a really big right bicep over there, but
Just
man,
this
the left
one.
side.
Yeah, this is all I want to create is a really strong right bicep, right? And
Oh,
so
that is such a good analogy.
yeah, and now I'm a full, I'm so much more whole. So anything I'm doing to care and nurture and fully self-actualize, of course the money would be there, of course abundance would be there. So I would say very little, I do very little looking at money or saying, okay, this is how much I want to make now. Whereas before, that's kind of where I would get some dopamine hits and that sort of thing. And now it just is. Right. It just is. And what I'm so fully, wholly focused on is the internal game. And the internal game just naturally creates a really fun external game that I don't have to think about how much money am I going to manifest this year.
Yeah. Yeah. And you actually expand beyond, like you said, 400% more. And just after the first journey, and that it's like, it naturally expands because you're here for all of it. So of course, abundance includes all of it.
Yeah.
It's like we're in a world of abundance of ideas and abundance of connection and abundance of possibilities and abundance of light and breath and all the things. And when we can realize like there's no lack of anything, like that is an illusion, you know? So obviously it all just, it's coming from this place of your peace. And like for me, one of the codes has always been like, peace is my highest priority. And like when I'm at peace, then I if I'm not at peace with something, it's showing me what's ready to be healed and loved. And when I'm operating from that place of peace, like everything is just to have this peaceful flow, this dance, this exploration of life. It's like there's nothing ever missing. That is liberation. That is liberation. You're completely free and liberated, which is such a beautiful thing to witness you in and being, and especially coming from just the places that you've come from and this level of evolution as a leader, and letting people hear that it's not okay, let's play the game well and just make more money, and you think everything else, it's, again, that's just another cycle of that you're fighting to try to make yourself feel better, to try to be in control, instead of releasing what's beneath all of that and allowing yourself to actually be free with all of life in all ways and all experiences.
Yeah, and that's really where I feel like everything could the outside could crumble now, and I could go, I can be with this. I'm
Yeah.
so happy in every moment. Happy isn't the word. Um, it's like peace. It's like
Yeah.
this is good. And so while I don't expect anything to crumble, I don't fear it anymore, right? Like I don't feel as though I have to control and make sure that we have this life or this house or whatever for me to have meaning, for me and my kids to have a good relationship. Like all of that already is, no matter what the outside looks like.
Yeah. How do you feel like that? It feels like this is maybe part of the evolution of that. But I know one of the pieces I've heard you speak to is that along the journey, it was learning to love all aspects of yourself? Is that because, and again, there was like parts that you denied and ran from, and now it's because you've been with those parts, had been willing to love and be with all those parts, you know, the darkness and light. Like, we know it's interwoven. We talk about in Journey in the Way and working with medicine. It's not, okay. I mean, it's like, it's, you've seen me where I'm like, I could be an orgasmic soul, God fucking bliss. And then something comes up and I'm going to spit and I'm like, shake it out. And then and it's like it's all interwoven, connected, the dark and the light. There's no illusion that the darkness is bad, or there's, you know, suffering or lack there. It's simply like, ooh, like, again, what is the gift behind it? So what was your experience with like, or how did that evolve for you, or what's maybe some guidance you can give some people on like how that's important is to, and how that gave you freedom was accepting all parts of yourself?
Oh my gosh, it gave me so much freedom. And this concept of like light and dark and everything being energy, like I was really obsessed with this. And I think I just repetitively like, yeah, but when do I get to the light? Yeah, but like,
Yeah,
when
I know.
I
I remember.
and so often you're just like, hey, it's all energy. It all belongs. It's all good. And I'm like, yeah, but, right.
Yeah.
So it took some experience, personal experience in it. Like, yes, I could receive the coaching. And yet there's this part of me that was like, that was, yeah, but I'm telling you, I'm seeing some darkness. Right.
Yeah. And you didn't want to go into the darkness. There was a lot of like, that was that control factor of like, oh no, I'm starting to feel an energy here. I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. And I'm like, go there, babes, like lean in, soften, go there. And like getting the context that like, oh, if I go there, then it moves. And then I am in the light, and there's actually not I don't want to go there. But I remember that being a big part of your journey for a while, which was like, but what if I feel great and amazing. And then all of a sudden I start to feel a heavy energy or a scary energy and a density. And I'm like, no. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. And I, for some reason, required quite a few of those experiences. And so I really said, I think this time I'm going to practice what Marcy said. Go all in. And like, what's the worst that can happen? You know, I'll eventually come out of medicine.
Yep.
So it has been the shadow has been my greatest gift to date. Truly. I'm just so grateful that I was willing to go into the darkness and all the fun I've had in it since then, because I'm no longer afraid of it. And I see the beauty of it. And it was a journey, right? Like it was a journey within the journeys to allow myself to feel safe enough to peak. And my favorite part was like, having done multiple different medicines and ending up at the same fucking place. Like, and I had labeled it, I no longer label it that because it deserves a more up-leveled name than what I was giving it. But it was like, if I keep coming to what I had then considered a very hellish place, and it's different medicines, maybe it's me. Like, maybe it's me. And so what is it that I really want from this? Like, because if it's me over and over and over, I'm not listening to me. So me, what do you want? Like, what is really calling? And, you know, she wanted to be like crazy, like actually like loony, like a psychotic person. She wanted to be like funny, interesting, different interdimensional, like animals. She was very just wanted to be unhinged. Yeah, she wanted to play. That's really what it was. And I was like, oh, by the end of it, I was like, I can't believe I thought that was evil. You know, poor thing, that aspect of myself that I had deemed evil because she wanted to be like silly. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy. Oh, you know.
And then you witness me with my shirt off, channeling sound codes and doing all things. You're like, because I remember you guys being like, because you're in training for Awakening Body Healer and training, and you're like, so we're questioning, like, how do you be fully on medicine and still, you know, support the group and do all these things? And they're like, and then we just saw Marcy's just doing it.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's both. It's not about being controlled and perfect, right?
Yeah.
Although it was perfect, but I mean controlled, like looking quote unquote perfect, right? You were like so in it which has been where some of my greatest breakthroughs is seeing, oh, if that is allowed, what if I try it? Right. And so I would just try how you're doing it because I couldn't imagine how I could do it. Right. Like I couldn't get out of my way to imagine how I could do that. So I would just mirror something, like I would do what it is that you were doing. And then eventually I was doing my own thing. Right.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
permission.
And it opens the pathway. Like we talk about, like when you follow your body into like where it wants to go. And like, I just remember seeing or witnessing where I can see the programs where before it was like control, put together, you know, da, 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 da. And then when you started to play with the energy more, and where you started like shaking and sounding and expressing and playing and releasing and doing all the things. And it became like, it opens the pathway to what is there, but we have to give ourselves permission, right? And you had to like give yourself permission to release that control and just allow you to follow the energy that just opened it up and like took you to a whole other experience and way of being, where you're like, oh, I can be all this and I can play and I can. And it's like, we're just shedding and releasing so many layers of the collective programming, and that we're not even aware is all we're doing, because that's all we've kind of looked for and seen. So it is beautiful when, you know, like say for instance, you as a facilitator now, it's been trained in this and can guide people through this. I know you had some of your first experience in guiding people was your grandparents. You got to do sacred ceremony with your grandparents and have like whole family shifts, and having this awareness of how to mirror and reflect, that people can go, oh, like I am safe and I can go there. And that's actually takes your own inner healing and journey to be willing to do that. You know, like I have to be like in full love with myself and knowing it doesn't matter what someone is reflecting about me. If they're like, that's fucking crazy. Your mom had lots of those experiences and moments too, where she's like, okay, but orgasmic bliss is just a little much. And then now where that she was like, okay, how do I have that? And then she got to experience that. It's like just witnessing that. Can I go there? Can I be in that level of pleasure and play and expression and fun and joy and releasing and all the things? It's like, it's a gift to go the journey of being that, because then you also get to be the example, the permission slip for other people to do that, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that I remember in one of the journeys where you're like, hey, you want some hape? You're like chasing me around like a little and I'm like, I feel like you're judging me. And I had like this whole story of like what I thought that you were judging, that I needed some sort of exorcism and like this sort of thing. And I saw that in the journey with my grandmother when she was like, I think you're actually just keeping me hostage. I'm your prisoner. And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember thinking those things, right? Like I remember having those thoughts that were probably somewhere within me, not just being triggered within medicine, but probably really needed to be released.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And from that experience, we did hape and went into absolute bliss, you know,
yeah.
right? Like where you, and I remember that being a big piece for you, where you're like, oh, I can release this easily. Like you were like, oh, like you were experiencing dancing. You're like, "Ugh, thank you. God." Like, you know, just like, but it's, and now you've become a hape queen, a hape master, you know, which I knew and saw that like you had the codes for. So, you know, then you get to offer that with your grandmother. And I mean, do you want to share some of that, how you feel like that opened the, I mean, because obviously you witnessed your mom, you decided to come into the retreat experiences, then your husband did, then you all went through training, and then as you guys began to practice again, getting more experience with holding space and facilitating, how did that evolve with your grandparents?
Well, sharing, just
Yeah.
sharing our experiences, but even more than sharing, them seeing the very physical shift in our family and our lives from the outside. So they live states away and they come and visit once a year. And so just seeing the quantum shift, the quantum leap between the year before and then when they came last time, they're like very interested in what could be going on here.
Mm-hmm.
I did not think, honestly, that they would have consider such a thing. But I have learned in it all that my grandma is quite the badass. She was 74 and was like a hell yes for two journeys and Hoppe. She now has her own Hoppe stuff that she does at home. So that was true generational healing. Previously, I had looked at generational healing as like, okay, you do your own work and maybe you aren't part of the family anymore. And now there's no right way, but for me, I recognized an in-depth generational healing that did not require exile. It didn't require exile. It was unification that was born.
Yes. No separation. It's actually the opposite is our pathway to our liberation and the healing.
Yeah. And it was profound. I mean, some of the high points were to see years of shame and guilt melt away. The gift of seeing both of my grandparents as children, because they both had a moment of inner child, is profound. That the only thing I had left for them was love and compassion. I just so easily saw their essence and not the stories that I had built around that essence, or even the stories they had portrayed around their essence. So it was out there. Something that I know for sure is that trauma and also blessings are passed down, whether we are aware of it or not. My grandfather came out of a journey and said verbatim words that I had said coming out of my last journey. And I had a moment of thinking, for my entire adult life, I thought I was clearing generational trauma on my maternal side. I had, for some reason, this blind spot of the paternal side. Like, I don't know how I missed that. But the freedom, I mean, my grandfather cannot speak of it without tearing up. I mean, it was sobs for days. Yeah. Nothing is the same. Nothing is the same.
Yeah, it just keeps evolving. That's so beautiful, my love. Yeah, I speak to in a module in 8am about the epigenetics that we take on in our DNA with 43 plus generations. It is literally in the eggs of, you're in the egg of you're as an egg in your mother when she's still in the egg of her mother. And it's like all that. Yeah. I mean, we have all this in our genes and our DNA. That's why there's so much for us to release, more than even what we think we've experienced in this lifetime experience, not to mention our several multidimensional lifetimes, which we wanted to go into these deep woo conversations, which we've already been having quite a bit of a conversation, but it's like, this is the state that medicine takes us into. I can associate to kind of being like, I teach where we can do encoding and manifestation in the state of like reconditioning our body when we're kind of tapping into like dream weaving state, and when we are in dream state, that's when even like, you wake up and you had a dream. It's like we're actually we're still moving energy and clearing things through our systems from other multi-dimensional lifetimes, experiences, etc. So it's just like medicine allows us to consciously, intentionally go into that space of all that clearing. So like, what an amazing reference point you have of like, I mean, because I've seen it in, as I studied this stuff, and implemented it over the years, I would see the cycles. I could see the cycles I saw play out with my mom, how that played out in my life, and see the cycles with my boys, and just see them in different ways, but as the same multi-generational things that we're all healing. I was like, whoa. So wow, and open up another level of blind spots. Yeah. Wow, babe.
And you talk about this dream state. We had previously called them medicine dreams. I don't call them that anymore because they're so frequent now. But something that has shifted is my dream state, where like when I'm asleep at night, those dreams are almost always conscious. So I would say probably 80% of my dreams, I'm conscious I'm awake in my dream. I don't know a better way to describe it other than I am conscious. I'm walking through the dream. I'm in other planets. I'm other beings. It is out there. And then my waking state feels not so far from my dreaming state, right? So before I used to feel like, okay, I'm awake and I'm in this world on this earth, and then I would dream, and sometimes I wouldn't remember my dreams, but it was definitely dream. And now it's more like this, like awake in my dreams, and in this reality feeling much more malleable.
Connected.
Yes, connected.
Yeah. Well, and if you look at what you were healing, there was this very much like, no, I have to be here in this state and separate from those things, and I have to be here in my body and controlled, etc. And as you kept practicing and witnessing and healing and expanding, that you could be that and this, and you could expand into that other energy and awareness of yourself. Again, we're multi-dimensional, mystical, glorious beings of light, and we're also human and having a human experience. And highest self is to bring the heaven state, the heaven conscious into the earth self, the embodied self. So it's to bring heaven into earth, as within, so without, as above, so below. And so it is to intertwine. It is to come from a place of wholeness, even as we talk about these. If we look at these wounded aspects where you had parts of yourself that you could say were wounded, or that were separate from, or weren't accepted, etc. Those wounded aspects, they're just gathering information. And as we learn to coming from wholeness, we just witness all the information. This is why I was talking about when we can witness ourselves as conscious, witnessing consciousness, and see what's there and let it move through and alchemize, but there's no attached to it story of suffering, etc. Because we're allowing, we're in the interconnection. So I feel like this reflection of what you're sharing is how you experience life now, where there's an interconnection to the dream state reality. This is why I do a lot of teaching and training on encoding into the etheric realm before you go to sleep, because you are literally in that interconnected, and you can you're in a place where everything can be encoded into your body and the energy, and you're in a greater manifestation state than when people are awake and they think they're separate from it and they can't feel it. So we can do a lot of things there. Yet as we evolve, it is to come from, I make decisions from my wholeness. Now, oh, my wounded little girl is feeling this, so I'm going to make a decision from that. Or my scared part that has a protector that stepped in because this feels fear. I'm going to decide, I'm going to react, and I'm going to make a decision from that. We actually can just witness all the information, gather the information, and make a decision from our wholeness, but there's no separation. So you're really just operating from a higher attunement where there's no separation. Yeah, I can be in other dimensions, realms, realities, experiences, connections, etc. And I can also be here. And there's no, it just gives you a greater capacity. And then you start to trip out, my love. I've had many experiences when I've worked with enlightened masters in India, etc., and have that was the connection point that then allowed me to take this into my life as well, where I experience myself in other dimensions and realities, literally awake state here and awake state somewhere else. That's probably a whole other conversation. That's where you're going here.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and one of the the pieces that I work on integrating often is the remembering so much. Remembering so much has me going, there's a lot of people I love that I forgot about, right? Like that was one of the things that was I don't know that heavy would be the word, but it was loud on my heart, that this deep connection that I feel with this family here, they are not my only ones, right? And so I go, is there other experiences where I am not remembering also Samson and Salem? So this coming to this multi-dimensional self is really such a gift, because now I look at anyone and I'm like, oh God, I love you. Right? My kid's father, my previous husband, oh God, I love him. It's so hard to imagine that there was a moment that I was like, fuck, and now I'm just so big-hearted,
Because you see the beyond all the illusions.
Yeah.
And all these beautiful relationships in our life, and these contracts, these besties, these soulmates, these soul beloveds, these soul family that are playing these different roles, like, and you're also having many other experiences with them and playing different roles for each other. And so it's just like, it becomes so much grander than our human, I like to say, like our highest awakened self. Awakened awareness is it's like our human brain, the smaller self, isn't meant to be able to capture all that. That's why we get to expand into this higher awareness and bring that in, that we can operate from that, or we can remember that. And then that's when we can shed and release. Like you were telling me before, how you in one of your recent journey experiences had done this, or had this, and even in your integration, it had this whole healing with your former, where you're like, oh, and I thought I was doing it for him and doing all this, and then I realized it was for me. It's like it keeps expanding into more love, more peace, more bliss, anything. And I just want to bring this in for people to hear this code and receive, is that anything that is in resistance is showing us what is here to receive on the other side. You know, so it's like, even if you're living a great, amazing life, and this is where we can be intentional about our devotion to our divinity and our expansion, is when we tune in and we can feel the energy of, is there anything in resistance? You might have been like, oh, my life's amazing, fucking make bank, and I do what I love, and I have an amazing family. And it's like, so, you know, like, it's okay that my former, I kind of keep at arm's length, or I have like a little bit of resistance to. It's like, you know, like, it's good, right? It's okay. And instead of like, I fucking adore you, beloved. I love you, beloved. Thank you, beloved. Wow, you are a gift. Wow, what we experienced was a gift. Like, how could I see it in as anything other than divine, glorious beauty, magic, miracles? And that's what I mean, my loves, by releasing all suffering, right? An inkling of resistance there is blocking us from receiving even more. And so as you continue to do that journey, and I know you'll just continue to expand as you're continuing to work with these beautiful teachers and, you know, and guiding other people. It's like, we just get to continue to expand into more of this, and to be so completely at peace and content and whole in the now, in this experience. Like, fucking liberation, beloved.
It so is. It so is. Yeah.
Woo. Wow. Is there anything else you feel like you want to share? You feel like is a message or a piece that is potent for you? You shared so much, so many
We did.
beautiful
We did
nuggets.
cover a lot. Yeah. It was. It just has been the most. The expansion, the most expansion. I don't know, and heart opening, compassion filled. I mean, uh, and what I've noticed is it's been the greatest gift to take care of me. That it actually wasn't up to me to take care of my kids or fix my kids or take care of my previous husband or my husband now, right? Like I'm not here to do anyone any favors. It's when I take care of me, everyone benefits. And that has been uh in one breath, it's been relieving, like, oh yeah, that was silly to think that I could save someone, right? Like that was silly to think that they needed me, right? They're so whole and complete, like I'm whole and complete. And it was only when I could see, even if it was for snippets at a time, just like for moments, that I am whole and complete, that I could then see them whole and complete,
Yeah.
which then allowed us to be in actual very healthy relationship,
Yeah.
very healthy relationship when I'm seeing their essence and not their stories.
Yeah. And you've integrated that then into, in a way, it's like we get these glimpses. Again, medicine gives us these glimpses that then, you know, a big piece, which you're trained in and offering and supporting other people in, is that what I call it's like the home stretch of the formula, the integration, that we get to integrate that into life. So it's like you have this awareness, you have these glimpses, and you're like seeing how you brought that into your perceptions and the way you see people and the way you interact. And even in like our last integration conversations, where it's like, oh, I'm not separate from that person over there in the grocery store. I am that too. And I am that too. And that now it's like, you're living from that. You're embodied in it. You're embodied in that truth, in that higher level of conscious attunement, that if life brings up a thought, an idea, like, oh, I'm separate and this is, oh, interesting, like you can catch it, witness it, let it move through, and live from this place of that experience, that you are that with all of life, that you are that with relationships, that you are that with everything. And I really, I enjoy witnessing you living from this space and experience and just continuing to expand. And also, just grateful for you, for your journey, for your shares, for how many beloveds you affect, and that there's no one for you to affect. You just living your life fully, being in your, it's like there's nothing for you to do. You doing that is what affects everything else. But I'm just honored, and I feel just so grateful that you're one of the divine sacred beloveds, that we had this contract for you to come in and go through these experiences and be able to support so many other people in this experience as well. So thank you, beloved. And
Sure.
ah,
So
yeah.
good. Thank you so much. I'm so honored, and it's really been such a blessing for me. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, will you share with everyone? Because I mean, you have several things that you support in your purpose and your passions and in sharing with people. Obviously, you work with entrepreneurs and CEOs in their businesses, being able to expand again into flow and ease and grace, and having 6-7 figure businesses and all of this. And you have the Sophia Mystery School. You are running retreat experiences. Your husband also is working with men in your retreat experiences. So maybe if you want to give everyone just kind of an idea of the different ways that ways that you share, if they can work with you one-on-one or just in groups or the retreats, etc. And we'll have all the links, of course, below that you guys can connect with Megan, and also in the resources portal, or if you guys go to like my retreat site, it has all the all the retreats coming up for the year. So what Megan is sharing when in her retreat experiences, all that's there as well, because she is a trained facilitator and getting to work with these things and having the whole system a part of the experience to be able to fully support people. But yeah, if you can share maybe where people can best follow you or connect with you, and what that would look like.
Yeah. Well, I'm so multifaceted here. So you can
I know.
find me at the Sophia Mystery School, because Michelle and I do retreats there. But so Scott and I also do, and he does some men's groups, and we also do co-ed. So definitely we're available for that. And I also support, like you said, business owners in scaling their business. I do, when it comes to business, I typically work only one-on-one for now. Who knows what may transpire. And Sophia Mystery School is where we do groups and or retreats. So Instagram, I'm at the Megan Camille. And on Facebook, I'm Intuitive Business Consulting with Megan Camille, and the Sophia Mystery School.
Awesome. And we will have all those links that you guys can even to follow, and like your little shares and awarenesses, and it's all gold. It's all gold. Yeah. And to get to continue to have experience with you and witness you, my love. So thank you for creating the time. I know we jammed out for a while on all the so many. I love it. I love being able to go in all these places, and I love that you're willing to go there. And I really admire that about you, is that you're willing to lean in and go and share fully, authentically, that other people can witness what's available. So thank you, beloved. And I hope for everyone listening and being a part of this conversation, that you can, like take these little codes and nuggets, or even awarenesses of where you can be like, because Megan might have shared some things you're just like, that's a little far-fetched, like being in total contentment with all of life. I feel like a lot of times it's like when I was saying things to you and you're like, but and I've had clients tell me, they're like, I know you've said this to me 100 times. Thank you for saying it 101, because it just clicked, like it just landed and I got it and I'm integrating it. And so, if there are things that are triggering or feel like that's beyond what you can imagine experiencing, then get excited that there's a curiosity, and there's so many opportunities of support, that we get to be supported. We get to, I mean, we're here to rise together in love. And that's what I love about, like, I am all in on diving into immersions and having teachers and guides and people. And I'm like, I feel so grateful that through my many years of working with sacred sacraments, being able to create a way that other people could know how to work with it and do it, that I'm like, man, that took me 14 years to get all these pieces. And that then there's these individuals and beloved, so many more that can support in, if you're feeling called to work with the sacred sacraments, but also in just like upgrading our human behaviors, patterns, beliefs, associations. There's a lot that we can start to cleanse and clear to allow us to go even deeper with that, if they're not feeling called to that. So I just really want to reflect for everyone that there's so much support. And if you're not experiencing or these things that we're talking about and getting to live in absolute peace, then get curious and lean into where you get to go. Because as we know, anything where there's resistance is just showing us what gets to be healed and loved, that we can receive even more. So I'll leave you all with that. So grateful to be on the journey with everyone here. And just thank you for joining us. We love you, beloveds, always and in always, infinitely, completely. Love, 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 love. Mwah.